Welcome to my free 2022 YouTube ads course for complete beginners. This video is for you if you want to learn how to advertise on YouTube in 2022. Now, before we get into this video, I'm going to send you an in-depth guide on how our agency Lynx was able to spend millions of dollars with YouTube ads profitably. All you have to do is just comment below with your biggest lesson from this video and my team will send you this guide. In this free course, you're going to learn how to script and shoot YouTube ads. You're going to learn how to scale YouTube ads and how to set up your first ever YouTube ads campaign. I'm going to show you step by step. I'm going to show you how to set up tracking. I'm going to show you how YouTube ads targeting works. Everything you need to get started with YouTube ads, we got in this video. And the best part is this video is completely updated. So it's updated right for 2022. So let's get right into it. So why would you go with YouTube ads? So YouTube is actually the world's second biggest search engine after Google.com. There's over 2 billion active users on YouTube, which is pretty ridiculous. YouTube is owned by Google, so you can target people who are searching on Google.com on YouTube. So if they're searching for your product on Google.com, you can then retarget those people right on YouTube with custom intent audiences. So that cross-network integration is massive with YouTube ads. And there's also a higher quality of leads because people on YouTube are in education mode. A lot of people on YouTube are on there to learn. That's why there's so many tutorial and how-to videos. You're on here to learn as well, right? So this means that the engagement on YouTube is often a lot better and that leads that you acquire on YouTube often have a higher lifetime value. And YouTube video ads also allow you to pre-sell people before they even go on your website. So that video ad allows you to convince people to purchase before they've even landed on your website. And that's because the power of video, right? Like video is just able to persuade people at a much better level. So people come to your website ready and primed to purchase. And video also allows for a much stronger impression and it allows you to build a much stronger connection with your viewer. If you've seen a really great video ad or a viral ad, you know that if a video ad makes you laugh or it makes you really engaged, you're going to remember that brand afterwards. So that's one of the powers of YouTube is everything is video. There's also a higher chance of going viral with your ad if your ad's really funny. There are a lot of people like Tai Lopez who've gone viral with their YouTube ads just because people reshared their ads. So the first thing we need to do is to actually set up your Google Ads account. So let's jump right into my screen and I'll show you how to do that. Now, when you're setting up an Google Ads account to run your YouTube ads, you really want to do things under an MCC account. So what an MCC account is, it's basically like a manager account where you can create sub-accounts underneath, you can add other accounts underneath it, and it allows you to essentially create multiple accounts easily. And it's really a risk mitigation strategy. It also makes organization easy if you're running multiple ad accounts. It's just a lot safer to do it. Think of it as a Facebook business manager, right? But the Google version of it. So what you want to do is you want to come to this URL, which is ads.google.com/home/tools/manage accounts. There'll be a link below to that. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a manager account. So the manager account just makes life so much easier. You just basically sign into your Google Ads account. Okay, so once you log in, you'll have your business information here. You'll put in your account display name. So you could put in Lynx Digital LLC, test. And if you're an agency, you want to definitely click on this. If you're doing your own ads, you could do this. And then obviously choose your billing country. For me, it's the US and the currency as well. So obviously wherever you're running ads and whatever your bank is, you want to choose that. You'll click submit. So I'm not gonna actually click submit because I don't wanna create an account here because we use this account for a lot of our own stuff. But essentially what happens once you do create an account is you're gonna essentially be here. So you're gonna have your MCC account. As you can see, I have a bunch of accounts in here. So once you're in here, you've created your MCC account, you can create new accounts fairly easily. So all you do is you go to accounts over here, you click this plus button. So once you click this plus button, you could create a new manager account underneath your MCC, which is pretty cool. You can link an existing account where you put in the account ID. So if you have existing ad accounts, you can add it to MCC. And then you can click create new account, which is what I'm assuming you'll be doing. So when you click create new account, you'll add in the name. You'll add in the country. So I'm gonna do United States. And you can add in users, save and continue. So then you'll go in here. So you'll have basically your account billing information that you can add in here. And yeah, now you've created an account. You can look for it based on the title you had. So right over here. So you can see when you're creating an ad account with the MCC, it's a pretty straightforward process. Okay, so now you've created an account, you click onto it, you get in here, you'll click new campaign, because you basically need to go through this step before you can actually run ads. So as you can see here, this is actually giving me the traditional interface. You will need to make sure that you set up conversion tracking if you're creating these kind of drive conversions accounts. But essentially your account is set up and you can set up campaigns in here. So guys, that's how you set up an account under an MCC. And in that case, it was pretty straightforward. However, some of you might just want to create an account without doing an MCC, or even if you do create an MCC, you'll see a different interface. So I want to show you what an interface would look like if you are just creating an account from scratch. So just in case, even if you do create an MCC and you see this new interface, I want to show you how to navigate it. So all you do is you click Start Now, and I'm just gonna create an account from scratch. So put in, there we go. Cool. So once you log in, you'll click this, create a new Google Ads account. This is probably what you're going to see the first time you create an account, right? Because with my MCC, we created a bunch of accounts, so that may have changed some stuff. Now, typically what you can do here is you'll probably click on your website. You could also promote your YouTube channel. So what they make you do is create a campaign to actually set up your account, right? But you're just going to pause the campaign after you set up the account. So you put in your website. Now, obviously you can click on the video as well. In this case, I just essentially wanted to really get things set up ASAP. Again, just skip all of this. This stuff doesn't matter. I'm in South Africa, so it's showing me South Africa as the country. Again, none of this matters. You're just going through it. You're just setting up that first campaign. And then what you're going to do is you're going to enter in your billing and your card details. Now, once you do all of that, your campaign will be set up, right? So I don't want to actually set up the billing in here, but once you click this, your account will be made. And then what you'll do is you will go into the account and just pause the campaign. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this Explore this campaign button. What you want to do is go to settings. This is the first thing you need to do, and switch to expert mode. So this actually makes it a lot easier, because the other mode, the beginner mode, is really just a way for you to lose a lot of money. Because with the expert mode, you can actually set campaigns up properly and so on. So anyways, this campaign right here, I'm just gonna pause campaign here. And yeah, there you go. You pause that campaign and then you can set up new campaigns from there. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's how you set up your Google Ads account. Obviously, you want to add in billing, you want to add in conversion tracking as well. But that's how you get your account set up. Okay, so now that you've set up your Google Ads account, let's talk about how you can script your first YouTube ad. So when you're scripting a YouTube ad, the structure I like to follow is pretty simple. The first key to a really great YouTube ad is the first 5 seconds, which is the hook. So the first 5 to 7 seconds is where you grab people's attention. And if you can really engage them in those first 5 to 7 seconds, people are going to watch the rest of your ads. So if you look at examples of really good hooks, a lot of them involve scenes or words that are a bit unusual, right? So an example of an ad that we've done in the past is where we opened with an opening scene of a hammer dropping on a guy's shoe, right? We were selling indestructible shoes, and the opening scene was a hammer dropping on his shoes. Now, obviously, this caught people's attention. Now, it doesn't only need to be that, right? The hook could just be a direct statement. It could be a question to the audience. It could be a question like, hey, are you tired of your ad campaigns not working despite you putting in hundreds of dollars and dozens of hours on shooting ads and optimizing them, right? So that's a direct question, and anybody who is dealing with that problem, their ears are gonna perk up because you just called out their problem. You could even call out the potential audience with your hook. It could even be something like, hey, ad agencies, do you want to sell YouTube ads to your clients and charge them $5,000 a month? Right? That's a quick, direct question. So another example of a hook is a physical action. So I've seen ads where people are like, hey, listen, this is really important. I want you to listen for a quick sec. And that's basically a pattern interrupt because you're just getting in the camera, or you're even saying something like stop, and that is a pattern interrupt because somebody who says stop, that's really something that usually is done by authority figure, or it's done if there's something urgent happening. So whenever there is a pattern interrupt like that on YouTube, people pay attention. So there's a bunch of different hooks you can use. The key here is you want to test out different hooks. Now, when we're setting up our ads, what we like to do is we like to have a hook and then we like to have a body. So the hook is the first 10, 15 seconds at most, and then the body is the rest of the ad. So we will try shooting different hooks, but we may have one or two bodies, and then we're gonna basically interchange hooks and bodies. So we can get a bunch of variations from these ads without having to script and shoot 5 or 6 different ads, right? Because you can have 3 hooks and 2 bodies, and then you can shoot the 3 hooks individually and the 2 bodies individually. Now you have 6 variations, but you've shot it in 1/2 of the time it takes to actually shoot 6 individual ads. And also what this allows you to do is then you can test these different hooks to see what your audience responds to better. And then if you find a hook that works really well, you can then develop the rest of the ad around that hook, that marketing angle that your audience really emphasizes with and that they really like. So what's the next step after the hook? This can really depend on the ad, but one thing I do like to do is I do want to make sure that there is some credibility being built. So if my hook grabs their attention, after that, I want them to understand why they should listen to me. In many cases, our clients will say something like, hey, I'm Shash, I've been featured on Forbes, Huffington Post, etc. Obviously, I haven't, but that's what my clients might say. In my case, I may say something like, hey, I've helped dozens of my clients and dozens of my students make over $40 million with YouTube ads, and I want to share some of my best secrets. So that's different because what I'm doing there is building credibility, right? So it could be credibility in the form of, let's say, publications you've been featured in, if you've been in big magazines. It could also be credibility in the form of the number of people you've helped, the number of clients you have, the amount of revenue you've generated, or even awards you've won, right? So anything could be credible, right? You obviously have to have something that other people find impressive. But the key here is early in the ad, you want them to understand that, hey, this guy's an expert. Now, you could even have credibility in the form of your own story. So if you have some crazy inspiring story, you could even tell that story as a form of building trust and credibility, right? So what you're doing here is you're just establishing yourself as an expert. So you've grabbed their attention, you've shown them why they should listen to you. After that, you want to give them your offer, right? So this would be introducing them to whatever you're offering them to get them into your funnels. If you're getting them into a lead magnet funnel, you're going to tell them, hey, I've made this 7-step lead magnet that goes over exactly how you can start running YouTube ads tomorrow. And that will be your entry point into your funnel. So essentially you want to explain what it is that you're offering them and what they will learn from opting in or joining your webinar, etc., right? And then you really want to sell them on the benefits of it, right? So you tell them that, hey, people who've gone through this training have been able to, generate multi-7 figures just from this free training, etc., right? You really want to tell them also what they're going to learn specifically in the training. So you'll tell them, hey, first key, you're going to learn this. Second thing, you're going to learn, let's say, how to script YouTube ads. Third thing, you're going to learn how to scale YouTube ads, right? So you want to give them the key pieces that then they're going to be able to attach onto. Now that you've sold them on the benefits and why they should go and check out your opt-in or lead magnet or webinar, you want to sell them on the click and you want to tell them to click. So you will say something like, hey, click the link above or below to go to my website, and then you'll have an opt-in form there. Just enter your name and your best email, and then we'll send you this free training, right? So you want to tell them exactly what they have to do. You have to tell them to click, and then you have to tell them what action they need to take on the next page. So after that first call to action, you do want to provide some more benefits. Perhaps you want to go over some common objections. So if you know that there's usually a few common objections people have before they go onto your training, you may want to dispel those objections at that point. Now, at this stage of the video ad, where you're getting pretty, you're 70% of the way in, you may also want to clip in some testimonials or even clip in a screen share of, let's say, reviews that people have written on Facebook, etc., right? So you may want to say, hey, now don't only take it from me, but here's what people who went through this training got in terms of results, and then perhaps screen share some of the results, whether they be in text or even clip in video clips of people who got great results. So adding in social proof at this point is really good. So because you've already built authority earlier in the video ad, now what you're doing is adding a little bit of social proof to get people to really get engaged and understand that, okay, now this isn't something that this guy is selling. It's also something that other people have found valuable, right? Social proof is one of the biggest persuasion triggers out there. So you want to make sure you have some sort of social proof. In past cases, we've clipped in testimonials and so on. And remember, this is better near the end of the ad because then, adding a testimonial can kind of kill the flow of things. But if it's near the end of the ad, adding that testimonial could be perfect for convincing somebody who's on the fence. So that's kind of the flow we're aiming for. Now, after this, you want to have your second call to action. So you never want just one call to action. You want to make sure you have multiple call to actions. Same thing as the first call to action. You tell them exactly what to do to click through and then the exact action they have to take on the next page. Now, this is pretty much where the video ad ends. You can add in more stuff if you want to, but usually what you'll want to do at this point is end the ad and have a countdown timer that basically gives them a few extra seconds to click through. Now, once you script your video ad, you want to make sure you do it justice by shooting it properly. Now, one tip I have is when you're shooting a video ad and you're in front of the camera, you really want to make sure your tone is really good, where you have a high level of variance. So you're not just speaking in a monotone manner, but you're actually, being a bit louder, being a bit quieter, speaking a bit faster. So having that variable tone really keeps the ad engaging, and you want to make sure the ad actually sounds very engaging, right? So when you're shooting a longer YouTube video, you can go with a slower pace of speech, but if you look at really good YouTube ads, usually they have a somewhat fast pace of speech, right? And there's really a lot of focus on being engaging, right? You want to grab people's attention. So rule number one of shooting video ads is make sure you practice them. Spend 30 to 40 minutes just going through your script, really getting used to delivering the ad, and then you'll be able to actually shoot an ad that's interesting, right? So this comes down to basically ability to communicate and persuade by having great tonality. And this is something that can be developed, right? Great public speakers are experts at this. If you look at ads from guys like Dean Graziosi or Tony Robbins, they really have the ability to command attention and be engaging in their ads. So that's something that is huge for YouTube ads. Even if you are not naturally charismatic, you can develop this. Spend 30 minutes going through your ad script and trying out speaking faster, speaking slower. Eventually you'll get comfortable with it and you'll be able to deliver it very well. Now, once you've shot the video ad, what you can do to make it even better is to add in some edits to the YouTube ad. So one rule we've learned from Parker Walbeck is the 10-second rule, which is you do not want your video to have 10 seconds without some sort of edit in there that keeps things interesting. So this could be something like text on screen. It could be something like some sort of graphic to emphasize key points. It could be even just fast-paced transitions, right? Like transitions can help a lot. Another key tip for video editing is to add in some background music, as background music can really add to an ad. So if you add in inspiring style music, it can actually make your ad a lot more interesting. Now let's quickly talk about a few differences when you're shooting ads for e-commerce versus info products or lead gen. So when you're doing ads for info products or you're doing ads for lead gen, let's say like solar or mortgage, you could literally do a selfie style ad. You don't need to have crazy production, just have good audio. You can use your phone for it. However, when you're shooting an ad for an e-commerce business, what you want to do is really make the ad about the product, right? So with the e-commerce video ad, what we found the best ads is they'll have a lot of product footage, but they'll also have either a voiceover or an actor. Usually we've seen that ads that have no voiceover or actors don't do very well because people like to have that human element and a human being taking them through it, especially on YouTube, where even if you look at product reviews on tech vlogs, usually there'll be a voiceover at the very least, or there'll be somebody on camera. So if you just have something with just background music, it's gonna convert worse than having a voiceover artist. That makes things easier because what you can do with these e-commerce ads is you can take a bunch of product footage, add in some B-roll footage, and then hire a voiceover artist on Fiverr or Upwork, and you can create a video ad that way without having to go do a crazy expensive shoot with an agency, right? So that actually makes things easier. So give that a try with your e-commerce ads. So guys, before we get into campaign setup, I want to explain a big major change that has happened to YouTube ads. So in the past, what would happen is you could choose to have your ads either be in-stream or responsive. So you had more control of the formats and you had more control over where it showed up, where now your ad can basically, you don't have control over the format, right? So your ad can show up as a responsive like in-feed ad. So this is on the mobile homepage, and essentially it'll start playing and then they can click through and they will actually end up on the video page. Or it will show up as a normal in-stream ad, which used to be the most popular kind of ad format, right? Everybody would run in-stream ads. So now you don't have control over which one. So it'll show up in both. And because of that, in this format, there's a lot more text. So it kind of changes things a bit. And another big change is in the past, you could decide whether your ads would just show up on YouTube or also on Google's display partners, which are essentially other third-party websites where your ads can show up, right? So these are like news websites or random, websites that basically are on the Google Display Network. So now your ads can show up on these third-party websites and apps and so on, and you don't have control over that. There are some tricks and tips to help you with that, but for this video, you just want to understand that there has been basically a reduced amount of control that advertisers have over where their ads can show. We can still get amazing results with YouTube ads, but you want to be aware of this. Now, the second thing you want to be aware of is that basically with the bidding types, so with YouTube ads, there are two main bidding types you're going to be using: maximize conversions and target CPA. Maximize conversions is good for new accounts. Target CPA is better once you've had 100 or 200 conversions, as usually we find target CPA gets you the cheapest cost per conversion overall. However, with new accounts, it's hard to spend with target CPA. So to give you the rundown of it, use max conversions when you're starting out and target CPA when you have a bit more data. Now let's actually get into setting up a new campaign from scratch with YouTube ads, right? So before we do that, we need to set up some tracking. Obviously, you need to be able to track your conversions to be able to know if your ads are performing or not. So we're gonna go and I'm gonna show you how to set up tracking now. When you're inside your Google Ads account, you want to go to Tools and Settings, and you want to go to Conversions. All right, so when you click through here, you'll see a bunch of different conversion actions here if you've already set up conversions. If you haven't set anything up, this is going to be completely empty. Obviously, this is an account where we've set up a lot of conversions, so it's not empty. All you would do is click New Conversion, and usually you're gonna have website, right? Like in certain cases, you might be tracking app installs or phone calls, but in most cases, you can be doing website conversions. So you're gonna click on that, and you're gonna have the goal and action optimization. So usually if I'm doing a lead, I will do something like contact or submit lead form. Obviously, if you're having a purchase, that would be in the purchase category. So you can kind of organize your conversions here pretty well. So let's say we're doing a lead form submission. So you can rename this whatever you want. So links test. And then the value. So if you want to assign a value to conversion, you can. I usually do this for purchases. For leads, I don't really assign values. So let's talk about count. So what count is, you basically select how many conversions to count per click or interaction. So if somebody submits the same lead form 2 or 3 times, if you have every, it will be 2 or 3 leads. While if you have one, it would only be the first one that's counted. Now, this is good if you have, for example, an e-commerce website and people can make multiple purchases and you're all tracking that under one purchase conversion, because each purchase conversion obviously is worth more to you, right? So if they've made 3 purchases, you want to know they've made 3 purchases. On the other hand, somebody who signed up for your lead magnet 2 times, there's still 1 lead, right? It's not really additional value that they opted in twice. So I like to have 1 for leads, signups, and other conversions, and then for every is for e-commerce purchases usually. Now, right over here, we have the conversion windows. So click-through conversions are when somebody clicks on an ad, and usually what we'll do is have 30 days for this. If you have a longer sales cycle, you may want to go 60 or 90 days. And then engage view conversion is something that's new, and this is when somebody watches at least 10 seconds of your video ad. So typically, I go with the recommended 3 days. So an engaged view is essentially somebody who's watched your ad for more than 10 seconds. So they're kind of engaged. They could have skipped it, but they didn't. And then view through conversion is somebody who even sees your ad for like 2 seconds or 1 second, and then they skip, right? So it's not really as useful. Typically, I'll put this at 1 day, right? Like I don't really put much weight on view through conversions, especially with this new engaged way conversion window, which is really, really useful. Now, after this, you click create and continue. Now guys, at this point, there's a couple different options for how you can set up the conversion tag. Now guys, what I like to do is I like to use Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is a tool that allows you to manage all your various tags. So tags like Facebook Pixel, Google Ads, tracking, as well as Google Analytics. So all of those codes can be easily managed inside Google Tag Manager. So I'm going to briefly go over how to set up a Google Tag Manager account. So what you do is you come in here into tagmanager.google.com. You'll click create account. You'll put in your account name. So usually a company name, whatever geography you're in. And the container name is usually the website, right? So I'll usually just put in my website for that. And the target platform is usually web. You click create, you have this terms of service agreement that you say yes to. And there you go. And then what you do is you will basically take that tag manager code, you're gonna save it, and then you're gonna install it on your website. So there are instructions for that. So this code on the top goes into the header page, and then the code below that goes into the body tag. And obviously each platform is going to be different, so you're going to have to look this up and see how to install it exactly, but typically it's quite simple. And the cool thing is you install it once across all your website code, it's set up, and then you can go in there, set up the Facebook Pixel, the Google Analytics tracking code, Google Ads conversion tracking code, and instead of having to go into your website's backend and add in code manually, you can do it through Google Tag Manager. So it's a much simpler, much faster way to do it because you just go in there and one click, bam, you're done. Now let's go over how you will set up your conversions with Google Tag Manager. So obviously you're in here, you're basically, you click on your conversion after you've set it up, right? So it'll show up in there. And you'll see where we are. So you click on use Google Tag Manager. You grab that conversion ID, copy and paste it, and the conversion label as well. So those are the two big things. So you'll click the new tag. You'll click, you'll name it. So you'll name it as Google Ads, you know, whatever your conversion is, right? So I would name it as Google Ads opt-in. And then you go into tag configuration, go to Google Ads conversion tracking, and you paste that conversion ID in there. And then you paste the conversion label as well. So go in there, copy and paste. So now you've set up your conversion ID and conversion label. And now you have to set up your trigger. So essentially the way the trigger works is you're gonna set it up, you're gonna have a new trigger. So whatever page they go to after they opt in, you'll want to have that as the trigger, right? So usually if they opt in, you may send them to an thank you page after, and you want this conversion to fire on that page. So a trigger is essentially a kind of if this, do that. So the trigger is the if part. So the trigger is telling you, hey, fire the conversion if the page URL is whatever the page URL is. So as you can see here, this is the thank you page for the conversion. And then you copy and paste that in there. So this is the page they go to after they opt in, right? Because that's how you can essentially be like, okay, this person opted in 100% because they went to a page that can be only accessible after opt-in. So you don't want this to fire on the opt-in page, you want to fire this on the thank you page for the opt-in page. And then you click save again. And there you go, you've set up your conversion. And now guys, there's also a conversion linker that you should set up. That's going to be a separate video, but it's pretty easy. It's just like a one-click thing. Whenever in Google Tag Manager it says set up conversion linker, you literally just have one click and you set it up. So yeah guys, that's how you set up a Google Ads conversion with Google Tag Manager. Now let's talk about using the HTML global site tag and hard coding the conversion. So this is installing the tag yourself. This is going to be a little bit more complicated because you're going to set up the site tag and then you're going to also set up this event snippet. So this goes onto all of your website pages, right? So this needs to be on every page on your website. So you're gonna take this, copy and paste between the head and the head tag of every page on your website, right? So usually, for example, in WordPress, you can go in there and set this up quite easily by basically going into the theme file and modifying that. Now, this is the event snippet. So this is the actual conversion tracking snippet, right? So you only want this to be on the thank you page. So you would copy and paste this, and you would put this into the head tags of your thank you page. So the same page we set up as the trigger in the Google Tag Manager method, the thank you page, right? That's the same page you set this code up. Now, obviously, with this method, you're going into your website's code, and every time you're setting up a conversion, you have to go in there, you have to copy this code manually. While with setting it up through Google Tag Manager, it's a lot easier. So you can still do it this way, but in my opinion, it's a lot better to set it up the other way. Now, let's go over an example of how to set this up with the actual code. So install the tag yourself. And by the way, we're going to show you how to set this up on ClickFunnels. So you're going to grab that global site tag. You're going to go inside your ClickFunnels account. Go to settings. So this is for the whole funnel, right? So you're setting up this for your whole entire funnel in ClickFunnels. So it's going to show up in every funnel step. And then you're going to put it in head tracking code. So you're going to have this in pretty much most content management systems or most funnel tools, is like somewhere to put in the code for the entire funnel or for your entire website. Now over here, we want to set up tracking for them opting in for a webinar, which is on Webinar Jam. So we're going to put in the global site tag into Webinar Jam as well. So if your website is distributed over two tools, right? So in this case, we have some funnel pages on ClickFunnels and we have some pages on Webinar Jam. You want to put it in both places. So we've taken that global site tag, we've put it inside ClickFunnels on every page, and we've put it inside Webinar Jam as well on every page. So that's step one, setting up the global site tag on every single page on your website. Now what you're going to do is you're going to add the event snippet, and this is specifically on the thank you page of, let's say, whatever conversion you're tracking. So in this case, for a webinar opt-in, we're going to put it on the webinar thank you page, which is the page they get to after they opt in for the webinar. So we copy and paste it. Again, go back into Webinar Jam, and we're just going to add it in the post-registration thank you page tracking. So there we go. We've set that up, save it, confirm. Now what you want to do at this point is install a Chrome extension called Google Tag Assistant, right? So the Google Tag Assistant allows you to check whether something was implemented correctly or not. So once you install the Google Tag Assistant, what you're going to do is you're going to click on it on your thank you page, and you're going to see that the global site tag is set up, your Google Ads conversion tracking set up, and this was another tag we set up as well. All right, so now we're going to set up your first campaign. So what you're going to do is inside your Google Ads account, you're going to go in here and you're going to click this plus button. So you're going to click new campaign, and over here you can see you have these different options. What you're going to do is you're going to click sales, and you can actually choose if you want to optimize for certain conversions. So what I like to do is I like to basically just include them all. So you can do here, you can remove certain conversions if you want to, but usually what I'll do as a default is just have all of these included, right? I've usually found that just optimizing for all of the conversions that count for whatever reason gives the best results. Whenever I've tried to get too minute and just optimize for one conversion out of the rest of them, I found that results have suffered. Now, once you get in here, what you're going to do is you're going to click on video. So as I said, sales, video, and then you're gonna basically have optimized for all the conversions you've set up. You're gonna name your campaign. Typically, I like to have, so the bidding format. So if it's a new account, we're gonna go with max conversions. The date, so the date's already in there. I'll wanna do the audience type. So we're gonna do keywords here. So I'll do, let's say we're running ads for a keto diet, right? So let's say keto diet keywords. So maximize conversions is what I recommend if you're starting with a new account. If you have a lot of data, go with target CPA. Over here, I like to have just daily budget. So I'll usually start with $25 to $35 a day. Let's say $35. If you're selling something more expensive, you may want to increase this budget. Now over here, as I mentioned, you cannot unselect this anymore. This is where you choose the countries and territories. You can even choose zip codes, right? So if you wanted to go really specific, you could even just go in here and choose, Kentucky, or you can choose a random state in India, right? Like you can get very minute with YouTube ads in terms of locations. And then you can exclude certain locations too, right? Languages, so I like to go with English, obviously, because I'm, usually running offers in the English market. Over here, I usually will do expanded inventory. If you have a client that does not want to show up in front of ads that have profanity or sexual content or graphic violence, you can go to standard inventory or even limited. But for me, I'm not too picky, especially if I'm running for ads for myself. And then what I'll do is I usually just show on all of these. I will usually exclude live streaming videos because usually the engagement on those are pretty bad. And embedded YouTube videos, I think it's fine to let those run, right? And then I'll usually uncheck this, right? I don't really care if content is not yet labeled. So yeah. So site link extensions are pretty useful, especially with the responsive ads. What you will do is you will add in your site link text. So site link extensions essentially are going to show up in your ad and they give people more links to click so they can increase click-through rates. However, you do need to keep in mind that you can't use the same URL over and over. So if you're sending them to a certain landing page, you have to send them to other pages. So an example of other pages you can send them to is the frequently asked questions on your page, maybe an about us page, maybe let's say another, a blog post, etc. So you do want to be somewhat selective. It's better to not use site link extensions unless you have a good strategy behind it, right? So you want to make sure wherever you send them has the ability for them to convert. So if you're actually sending them to a webinar opt-in and then on the site link, you're sending them to the homepage, it's counterproductive, right? So you want to be able to send them to a page that isn't the same URL, but still allows them to complete that conversion action. So you have to be a little bit kind of innovative with this. But yeah, this isn't necessary, but it does increase click-through rate. So if you can think of basically a good strategy where, let's say if you're sending them to a webinar opt-in page, perhaps you can send them to another webinar opt-in page, but it's a opt-in page that's restructured where it's perhaps they have the opt-in, but it's more of a frequently asked questions kind of setup. So you want to be a little smart about how you do this. And you can do up to 4 site link extensions. So that's quite a few. I'm just going to skip that for now for the sake of time. Over here, you have your demographics. So, usually what I find with selling, especially coaching and info products, is to get rid of the 18 to 24s because those are usually just people who are way too young and usually don't have money to spend. I'll also often get rid of lower 50% household income if I'm selling something that's more expensive. And then we have audience segments, which is pretty much the audiences, right? So there's custom segments. This is basically what used to be called the custom audiences. So they just replace audiences with segments. And this can be based on search activity, right? So if somebody searches on google.com for a certain search term, you can target them. So if they search for best headphones on google.com, you can target them with YouTube ads, and you can create a custom segment for that, or a custom audience. You can also create audiences based on websites they visit. So if you want to target, let's say, people who are similar to people who visit your competitor's website, you could also do that. So this is really powerful. Now, your data here is your remarketing segments. So this could be your website visitors, this could be your email list, this could be your YouTube users, so people who've subscribed to you, people who've watched a video in the last 10 days, last 15 days, last 30 days. The cool thing with all these types of audiences is you can make them yourself, so you can kind of customize them. Now over here, you have interests and detailed demographics. So in market is basically people who are searching for a solution to something or in the market to buy something. So for example, this could be people who are looking to buy business services, people who are looking to buy beauty and personal care, right? So this is a pretty broad audience. It's basically based on Google's own data that they have, that they kind of determine that somebody's interested in this stuff, but we've had really good success with in-market segments. Now, the next one is right over here, which is, so the next one is life events. So this is business creation, college graduation, home renovation, even marriage or recently married, or even retirement, right? People who are retiring soon or are already retired, or even if they've gotten a new pet. So the life events is basically big changes in people's lives, and that's a really great way to target people. Now, detailed demographics are parental status, marital status. So you can even go for married, single, in a relationship, basically if they're parents or not parents, or even parents of kids of certain ages, right? So if you're selling a product that's targeted at parents, you can really do some, pretty good targeting there. Home ownership status, employment, and so on. And then you have affinity. So with affinity audiences, essentially these are segments of people who have certain interests or affinities or certain kind of behaviors, right? So these are very broad audiences. As you can see here in lifestyle and hobbies, you have business professionals, you have family focused, fashionistas, nightlife enthusiasts. So there's a lot of these, and I'll be honest, affinity is really broad. So usually when you're scaling, it's a great audience, but once you're starting out, it's kind of too broad for an account that's completely new. So keyword targeting is based on certain terms and keywords, right? So essentially, you will be targeting videos based on kind of their title, their metadata, their description. So if you put in, let's say, keto diet, so your YouTube ad is going to show up in videos that are related to keto diet, or it's going to be shown to people who've just watched videos about keto diet. So maybe they watched a video about keto diets 2 or 3 videos ago, and now they're gonna show those people your ad, right? So it's pretty targeted, it's pretty relevant. Usually what I like to do is I like to have 3 to 4 tightly grouped phrases for keywords. So if I do keto diet, and the way you can kind of research this is you can just go onto youtube.com. This is a simple way, right? I have a more in-depth video on keyword research that you can check out that will be coming, either has come out soon or will come out soon. But essentially, if you go on here and you click in keto diet, essentially, if you go on here and you do keto diet, I'm using this tool called Keywords Anywhere. You can see these various search terms, right? So you could, basically, you'll want to have 3 or 4 key related keywords. So let's say we do keto diet for beginners, and then keto diet for beginners, keto diet results, perhaps. So usually 3 or 4 is a good place to start, right? So usually the way I like to do it is keep it tightly grouped. So if my main kind of niche is keto diet, what I'll do is I'll have different keyword campaigns, and in each campaign, I might have basically one campaign that's targeted towards keto diets for beginners, and I'll put in keto diet for beginners, and then I'll choose like 3 or 4 of these keywords that are the most relevant, because then I like to keep them tightly grouped and a bit more niche down, because then it gets me basically the ability to see what's working and not working. Because if you think about it, these are essentially sub-niches, right? So there's keto diet for beginners. It's a sub-niche of keto diet because there are people who are experts, people who are beginners, people who are intermediates. And you want to kind of keep the beginner keywords tightly grouped into one ad group. And that way you're able to kind of control things a bit better. So I would put in keto diet beginner results, and then keto diets for beginners meal plan. And you can do 3 to 5. Usually I like to do 3 to 5 keywords. Would be keto diet for beginners. So the campaign structure I'm going for here is a 1 campaign, 1 ad group. I'm not gonna add more ad groups. I like to keep it to 1 ad group, and then I'll have 3 to 5 keywords, right? So there we go. We've added keywords in here. And now what we do is we add in your YouTube video, right? So I'm just gonna grab a random video in here. So let's say your URL is ketodiet.com, and then there'll be a call to action here. You can choose one of these existing ones. I'll do something like click here, and then you have this headline. So it's a 15 characters. So learn how to keto, or keto diet tips. So the long headline is gonna just show up on the in-feed side. So this will usually show up on the homepage. And so you have a lot more space here. So you can do something like, watch my free webinar on how to use the keto diet to lose weight and build muscle fast, right? So you can see it shows up here, and you want to use this. You want to use as much of this as possible because this will really compel people to click through. So in the description, you could have something like learn how to lose weight fast without cravings. Easy, right? So you want to fill it up as much as you can. In this case, I can't really think of something that's 18 characters long, but you get my point here, right? Like you essentially want to use this copy. If you have really great copy on your landing page that's converting, you could even just use that copy on here because then there's the level of ad congruency. So then it will basically improve your results quite a bit. Now keep in mind, right? Like with the in-stream, you're only going to see this call to action and this headline here, while with a responsive in-feed video, you're going to see everything else. So that's kind of how that works in terms of this is only going to show up on the in-feed side. Now, another recommendation I have is to actually create a custom thumbnail because the thumbnail, if they're on their mobile, this thumbnail will actually show for like 1.5 seconds before this video ad starts auto-playing. So having a really compelling thumbnail that's kind of like a YouTube thumbnail will really help, right? So take a look at what YouTubers are doing with their thumbnails. Something that gets people to really click through and grabs their attention is just going to work so much better with these in-stream ads. So yeah, guys, then you click Create Campaign. And there you go. You have your first YouTube ads campaign set up. Now, I'm going to get into how to actually do some analysis and review the results of your campaigns. One update I have to make is that click-through rate and view rate aren't as accurate as before. So in the following little clip, I will mention click-through rate and view rate. I don't use them as much anymore because with the responsive ads, those metrics have become very inaccurate or not very, it basically really depends on the format, right? So I don't really look at those anymore. I look at more cost per lead and cost per sale. But if you watch the following clip, you'll learn how to use cost per lead and cost per sale to optimize your campaigns and get better results. So we're going to go right into that clip. All right, so once you've actually set up your campaigns and you have had a few days, then you'll want to look at your campaigns to see what performance is like. So I'm looking at one of my campaigns, and one of the things you want to look at is, let's say, your cost per lead. If you're running a VSL funnel where you're sending traffic to VSL, you want to understand your cost per lead, and you want to really aim for under, $15 if you can. $20 okay, $15 is great. $10 and lower for high ticket coaching is awesome. Now, if you're in a niche like health and fitness, you'll probably want to be aiming for $3 to $5, or if you're in a niche like music coaching, etc. Right? So depending on your niche, your cost per lead could be anywhere from $3 to like $25, right? Ultimately, what matters is how much revenue you make from that lead, and that's why some niches are more expensive than others. Now, a few things you want to take a look at is I also have a custom conversion set up for book calls and the book calls cost per acquisition. So we're getting $173 per book call, which is I'm pretty happy with. And then a few other metrics you want to look at is if you click on this columns, you want to have a click-through rate, you want to have cost per click and average cost per view. So those are also important to take a look at. So the reason I like looking at click-through rate is it tells me how well the ad is doing. So we're getting a 2.96% click-through rate, which tells me the ad is hitting with the audience and people like this video ad. Our cost per click is pretty high because this is a competitive niche. Average cost per view is also quite high because, once again, this is a competitive niche, right? But yeah, overall, I'm decently happy with the performance of this campaign. So that gives you an idea of how to optimize your campaigns. Now from here, what you can do is you can go into the ad level. In this case, we only have one ad, but if you have multiple ads, you can take a look at the performance of each ad and how they're doing. So yeah, that's pretty much how to analyze your campaigns. And once you've got your first campaign set up, all you have to do is just test more targeting options and test more ads. And then you're off to the races with YouTube ads. And yeah, you could make it work quite well for you. All right, guys, so that was a very brief introduction to YouTube advertising for businesses. If you're doing this for clients as well, you can use this information. Guys, if you want to learn how to scale YouTube ads to 10 or 20K a day and generate 7 figures or beyond, you should check out our YouTube ads coaching program where we've helped multiple people generate multi-7 figures with YouTube ads. There'll be a link below to go check that out. That is the same program that we use to train our internal media buyers when they run client ads.